Is our first Friday event in the month of February 5th, and we are here tonight to celebrate, to commemorate our new spring exhibition series. We have 7 new shows, all talking about different ideas of the object, different media, different configurations, different content, different relationships, and we are super excited to have all these people down here tonight to help us open up these shows. On the schedule, we have a Raku firing. We have a ballet performance that will occur in this gallery. This gallery that I'm in right now, as you can see, is the Vessel's Invitational. 14 artists, 31 very unique works of art, and this amazing presentation throughout our big Beaverham exhibition. Come down, check it out, see what's going on. Our other galleries feature some local and regional emerging and established artists. We hope you'll be here for not just tonight live on our channel, but also in person for artist talks and activities every first Friday. I am going to send this back over to Josh, who's going to introduce our first program, which is ceramics.
Thanks, Leslie. We're also excited to be exploring the medium of ceramics with you all tonight. I'd like to send a special thank you to the guest curator, Kathrine Page, and all the artists for opening our eyes to a different interpretation of what a vessel could be. Tonight, I'm excited to introduce master teaching artist Tia Santana as she explores working with a Raku kiln.
Is it on? Good evening, everyone. Thank you. And I'm just going to talk about the Raku. We took an electric kiln and we transformed the kiln into a Raku kiln. So there, we removed the elements from the kiln, and there I am vacuuming out the dust of the kiln. Followed up by that procedure was just making sure that we had a pilot hole. So I began to drill in a circular motion to remove the outer layer of the kiln so that I can peel back the skin of the kiln to then create a pilot hole so that the oxygen would be able to flow through the burner.
All right, so excited. My name is Brittany Powell. I'm part of the public engagement team here at the Delaware Contemporary. And I'm excited to introduce you to Kathrine Page, who is the guest curator for the Vessel's Invitational. She's going to tell us a little bit about the show, the concept, and the artists that are in this spectacular exhibition. We're super excited and thankful to Kathrine and the team here, and we want to learn more about all these fantastic pieces.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathrine Page, and I'm the guest curator for Vessel Invitational, Revisioning the Receptacle. I'd like to thank the Delaware Contemporary staff, especially Josh Hollingsworth and Brittany Powell, and John Gibbons for installing the work in the Beaverham Gallery. and also to Pentimenti Gallery in Philadelphia for their collaboration with the artists Mikel Fargo and Lauren Mabry. It was an incredible privilege for me to work with the 24 artists who dwell in various parts of the country and Eastern Europe. The idea of the vessel is not really an original concept. At any contemporary craft show, vessels often dominate the landscape. By their nature, vessels focus on shape and color, form, volume, and concept. I wanted to showcase not just literal interpretations of the vessel, but through pushing the boundaries and choreographed experimentation with materials, a reimagined view at play. Whether literal or conceptual, all the work on display represents exemplary craftsmanship. By examining what use, forms, or materials the vessels take, there's ample room for acknowledging the subtleties and relinquishing the re-envisioned receptacle as a dialogue for inquiry, for memory, and association. Unique to this show are 3 sets of artist couples: Wendell Castle and Nancy Jers, Julie and Ken Giardini, and Alan and Nancy Topolsky. As you enter the gallery, you're immediately struck by 2 large vessels, one by Wendell Castle, the other by Stephen Merritt, as well as 3 by Julie and Ken Giardini. Each take the vessel at its literal interpretation, but punctuating all of them is texture and craftsmanship of exquisite structural complexity. Stephen Merritt, who is renowned for taking the neck of his vases to extreme lengths, is inspired by ancient Peruvian water pots. Wendell Castle is inspired by the juxtaposition of a rough-hewn wooden vessel atop a smoothly fabricated pedestal, hence the title Rough Rider. The Giardinis find inspiration in Scandinavian culture and Nordic stability, welded with contrasting metals and sleek graphic designs. The other large vessel farther into the gallery by Lauren Mabry is also a literal interpretation of the vessel, yet it questions whether containment or whether a lacuna is intrinsic to the design. It is both an abstract expressionist painting and a vessel. Known for his turned wood vessels, Ashley Murphy's double entendre piece incorporates a porcelain insulator into his design. It insulates an insulator, hence its very title. Alan Topolsky takes metal vintage wood fat food containers and stacks them like a totem pole to re-envision a mid-century receptacle in his work Canistron, the Greek derivative of canister. Jennifer McCurdy takes her cue from nature. As if frozen in a mutant puff of wind, hence the title Vortex, or cradled by ethereal hands cupping air, the deceptive sense of lightness in her porcelain vessel stems from sculptural precision, as well as the white exterior in contrast to the gold-leafed interior. In more conceptual modes, Sandra Bowden and Ermari Knott fuse the book arts with visionary interpretations of containment, enclosure, and reliquary, through materiality and texture. Sandra Bowden with nails or pearls and gold leaf, or Emery Nacht with cut paper. Ruth Gios, inspired by the aviary world, completely redefines the vessel with her series of feathers tucked into gold leaf mini cubes and accompanied by poetry. Set in rows under a vitrine, the gold blocks become the beakers in a scientific display case that both contain and are contained to establish an orderly system of observation, much like good ornithological research. Nancy Topolsky's work takes discarded objects and inserts them into felted forms. Tethered to a metal armature, the overstuffed felted papoose-like form appears to be at the cusp of birthing a litter of objects. By encapsulating the work in a glass vessel, Topolsky lends another layer to the work, questioning containment, memory, and association. Nancy Jur's Trio de Janeiro gives a whimsical nod to the Brazilian city and its famous singer, Carmen Miranda, known for her Mad Hatter-like flamboyant hats in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. The contours of the three vases seem to sway in syncopated harmony, unified by color and form. The works just mentioned are mere highlights to the mosaic of vessels on display. As you navigate the Beberham Gallery, I think you'll find points of tangency, vessels that are united in their diverging styles and superlatively crafted specimens. Yet, they stand not just as distinctly individual paradigms of great work, but also in deep conversations with one another while embodying the essential components of design. Finally, I think you'll find that they stand at the intersection of creative exploration, transcendence, and an abundance of visual delight. I hope you enjoy Vessel Invitational.
Hi everyone, my name's Courtney. I work for the Delaware Contemporary, and I had the great honor of installing this piece over to the right. And it was a really great experience. I got to read the artist instructions, very detailed, and then I got to decide on how exactly it was I was going to follow those instructions and get the piece installed the way the artist liked. So the approach I took with very specific measurements, we used a paper template. I went between using a string grid or a paper template and landed on the paper template just because it was easy to lay out and very carefully insert the gold leaf boxes with the feathers. It was a really wonderful experience. I had a great time and really loved getting to do some hands-on work with the museum.
Thanks, Courtney.
Yes, you're so
What do
welcome.
you say we go check out Tia throwing a pot on the wheel? We'll see some vessels live in action. Let's go.
Let's go.
Six single guys at the skate park.
So here is the vessel. I'm going to center the clay by a process called coning up and down. This lump of clay,
Tia, what are you doing?
I am centering the clay, so I'm coning up. This is the process of bringing the clay up.
Why is it important for the clay to be centered on the wheel?
Well, because if you don't center your clay on the wheel, you won't make a straight pot. You'll have wobbly pot.
Is a wobbly pot bad?
No, wobbly pot's not bad, but if you want to make pots that, not that wobbly pots can't be functional, they can be functional as well. But this is one of the basic steps of learning how to make a vessel, how to create a vessel, is learning how to manipulate the clay.
Is there like a part in the process that's your favorite part? Like, do you like centering it the most, or like do you like pulling it up the most, or is it all just like really therapeutic for you?
For me, this part of the process is very meditative because it's process oriented. So I enjoy just the feel of touching the clay. I think the vessel, to me, the outcome, the end outcome is a gift, is what I get. But more so what I enjoy is the process of being tuned into the clay.
And do different clays have different properties? Like, I know tonight you're using Raku clay because that's what we've been kind of demoing and we've been firing Raku pieces lately. Can you tell when you're working with clay, like what kind of clay it is?
Yes, some clays have more elasticity in them. And this clay is a really nice clay to throw with. It's not stiff. It's very flexible. I really enjoy that about this clay.
Okay, so
It retains a lot of water too.
it looks like there's a lot of clay on the wheel. Is that like for a beginner, is it good to start with a lot, or is that like you're on advanced amount of clay there?
So this is probably a more advanced amount of clay. Beginners will probably start with 1.5 to 2 pounds. That's what I recommend, and I teach my beginners is 1.5 to 2. Just so that you learn how to control the clay. The more clay that you have, the more difficult it is. And it takes more body mechanics and understanding the clay when you're getting into larger amounts of clay.
So is there a specific workout that you recommend for people who are interested in becoming clay practitioners? Like what muscles should we start with?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that clay throwing is really easy. And it is easy, but it takes a lot of the correct hand positioning, the correct body positioning to really understanding what's happening and compression of the clay, which is really, you want to position your entire top body over top of the clay so that you can center yourself over the clay to be able to control it and manipulate it.
Is it easy to throw clay when you have an annoying person asking you a lot of questions about your process?
No, I mean, I am used to talking about my process and working at the same time. It is easier when I can just focus on it, but it actually helps me as an instructor to be able to talk through the process.
Well, I was just going to say, you're like a master teacher here. So Tia leads so many of our clay programs for students and for the public, and she's fantastic at helping beginners, start their journey in clay. And I noticed you've got like a little candle set up, so it really is like really meditative for you. When did you begin your clay journey, like as a student?
I began my clay journey actually at Community College of Philadelphia. I took a clay course and I loved it, and eventually I stepped away from it, but I would come back to it.
Candle, is that like is clay like part of your ritual? I don't want to impede on your ritual if it's a private thing too. I want to give space for that too.
Clay is my safe space. I mean, it is a place of process for me. It's a place of learning for me. It's a place where I can be in control and knowledgeable about the medium, but I'm always still learning.
I love that beginner's mind. So what are you doing now? Because it seems like your vessel just got a lot taller than it was a few seconds ago.
So I am at the process now where I am pulling up the clay. So I am taking the clay from the bottom of the mound that I once had, and I'm pulling the clay up here. I'm basically compressing. I'm compressing my two fingers together. So I'm compressing on the inside, I'm compressing outward, and on the outside, I'm compressing inward. My bottom hand is always a little bit lower. And what happens is when the two simultaneously meet together, then the clay has nowhere to go but up. So that's how I bring the clay up until I get to maybe like this part of the clay, then I start to release because there's not much clay that you have more to bring up. And I slow the wheel down because the taller that I get, the more difficult or challenging it can be.
Well, and there's some pretty tall and wide vessels in the exhibition. Can you, like, what's the process there? Is it pretty much the same, or like, what's the biggest thing you've ever thrown on the wheel?
Biggest thing I've thrown on the wheel is probably maybe 20 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And that takes different mechanics than this. You know, it's really about, I'm not just using my hands. I would then use my forearm, and I'm using more of my body, but that's about the biggest. But there are a lot of people who will go who throw a lot larger.
And can they do it in one piece, or
Yes.
does it? I guess I never even contemplated that there could be different sized pottery wheels.
Yes.
I am just now realizing that like maybe there's more than one size. That's so interesting. And so I'm seeing like a lot of clay is coming off of it as you do it, but it doesn't look like it's necessarily getting thinner. Is that just a trick, or like it looks like more is coming off than it really is?
No, that's just me. Actually, that's not supposed to be happening right now.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's just me adjusting. So the clay ring is coming off because I have a lot of clay down here, and when I pull it up, it's creating a band.
Got it.
So basically, I need to collar the clay in here, and then I'll be able to bring it up.
How about the speed of the wheel? Because I feel like there's probably, like when you're learning to drive, right? You learn that if you put your foot all the way on the gas pedal right away, the car will go too fast. What is that like with the speed of the wheel?
You learn to control the speed of the wheel. A lot of beginners have issues being able to control the wheel and pull up the clay at the same time. So we have a trick in the classroom where we take the wheel pedal and we allow the students to keep the wheel at a specific speed because the pedal will stay. So then they can just focus on the pulling.
Do you just put like a brick on the pedal? Is there a
No,
special trick?
the pedal stays. So it has like a little stiffness to it where it will stay. Okay. You can take your foot off of it and it should stay.
Me putting bricks on the wheel of classroom pottery wheels. Okay, so it looks like you're introducing a tool now too.
So this is the rib tool. And this is the tool where, because I am going to start to compress this clay, I'm able to bring the two out. I'm able to bring the clay up and then take off the slip that I'm creating because this will weaken the clay.
And it seems like you're trying to strike a balance between the amount of moisture in the clay and then like what you're taking off. Like, does it start to get too dry? Like, what happens if you're not getting it wet enough?
Clay has a limit. So the more water I add to this clay, the weaker the clay will become. And if you add too much water to it, eventually it's going to collapse. So it does have a limit of absorption of the water that you can add to it without the integrity of the clay being compromised. I'm just shaping the clay now. I'm kind of just playing around with it.
So you look like you're really concentrating. I didn't want to interrupt you with another annoying question.
No, there are no annoying questions, Brittany. I love your questions. Actually, it they help me so that I don't have to think about the questions while I'm throwing.
That's interesting what you just, okay.
So here I'm trimming off the foot. I have a lot of clay that I didn't use down here, so I'm going to trim that off. I didn't really use this clay, so I can take that off because I don't want to have a lot of clay at the bottom. It would be the fire.
Got it.
So here you can do that. Some artists will trim the work while they are while it's in the leather hard stage. So after it dries, but I like to trim as much as I can in this stage.
Is it easier to control that way?
What's that?
Is it easier to control that way?
I think it's a preference. I like to do as much as I can while the clay is in this stage. Some people, and depending on the shape, sometimes if I make a shape for me, I usually make a lot of shapes that have tops that may be more narrow, or so when I go to trim it, it may be more difficult to trim it upside down because you have to turn it upside down to trim it. So I like to get all of the clay off now. It makes it easier. Sometimes I don't trim the bottoms. I can do it. If I can do it here, I'll take out the work.
How thick is like too thick for the kiln? I know a solid ball of clay is not going to do well.
I think that a good thickness for your pots, I like to tell my students, is between a 1/4 inch, no thicker than about 1/2 inch.
It's mesmerizing to watch it kind of
Evolve.
Yeah, it's really fluid.
Yeah.
Have you ever, this is a leading question, like have you ever gotten something just so perfect and then it collapses or something happens to it, or like how is that part of the process of learning?
I think part of the process of learning is learning from what you're doing. And I usually tell my students, I love on the demos on like first day of class, because you make something really nice and then you do what I'm about to do right now. You just take something really nice, and the way that you learn from it is that you don't get attached to it, but you can take your vessel and you can learn from the inside of a pot. So I like that this is just dirt. I always say that this is dirt and you can always make it again. And if you're attached to a pot, I feel like students are less likely to explore or to push their boundaries or push the limits. I feel like they get stuck to something and they don't want to try something else because they're afraid they're going to break it.
I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah,
I started squealing.
You make 1,000 of them, and then you can just, you can cut it in half. But this will teach me about the thickness of my walls. It'll teach me when I have thin spots, where I'm pulling too thin or where I'm pulling, I'm not pulling enough, where I have more clay down at the bottom and how I can control it more. All of this information, when I cut this open, this is how I learn from my pot. So this is a very important part of the throwing process, is learning from your pot, cutting them open, not being attached, knowing that if you did it once, you can perfect that and do it 20 more times.
I think what I love about this medium is you mess up, you dry the clay back out, and you start it all over, right?
Exactly. And that becomes like a process. You could throw a piece maybe 60 times, maybe 200 times before you learn the piece, where your body gets in a rhythm and it actually learns the form. So, I've been throwing for years and I wouldn't consider myself a professional potter or master. I feel like I have years to go before I'm a master potter.
Right.
I'm trying to think of like one or two more questions, just because I'm just so stunned that you just did that, actually. And I see you like set it to the side and just get set up to start again. How many pounds of clay do you think as an artist you go through, like to make a series or a body of work?
The great thing about clay is that you want to be conscious of being of recycling your clay and being a good steward of clay. So the great thing about clay is that it can be recycled. So I can take this clay and I can recycle it and use it again. So if I want to learn, I'm going to continue to recycle my clay and use it again. So it's not like I have to recycle it and throw it out. I recycle it and reuse it.
Got it. All right, well, I think we're going to go to Josh next, right? He's going to get us ready for our next program.
Thanks.
You, Tia.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tia. Next, we will have the guest curator, Kathrine Page, and she will talk a little more about the Vessel show.
It definitely dovetails with the exhibition because I wanted to explore a well-rounded view of what is Vessel. And I was even hoping to get some forms, dress forms, but it seemed to coincide on its own as it stands right now as a collective whole. So this just adds another dimension to the exhibition. And I applaud you and your outreach department for the lengths you've gone to pull together programs that does help expand the meaning of Vessel. So I think it only adds to it. I have to say, Doug Johnson's GOED, The Garden of Earthly Delights. And I'm trying to think how I found him. It must have been through an Instagram search. Yeah, maybe it was an Instagram search. And I looked at his website, and I had to keep looking at his work because it was so intriguing. The technique is sewing. It's sewing ropes, it's coils, which also is interesting because it's like coil building pottery. You spin around and around, and instead of attaching those coils with slip, he's adhesing these coils with thread. And so he's taking the form of a vessel, but they're very anthropomorphic, like the Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights. It's where he gets his inspiration. So when you first look at these, you think, wait, what are these? But the more you look, you understand that, oh, this is a vessel. There's this space, negative space and positive space, displacement of space, as well as the monochromatic colors. It really does force the eye to look at the contours of the work. It's very organic. And it contrasts with Imari Knox cut paper, book, or the Book of Nails, the contrast of textures. And I think that's what I was looking for, was this variety of visual and actual textures. So, or even Mari Scarp-Bogley's, her textures, you just want to touch those forms, those cradles they're brushes, and you just want to touch them, but you can't.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Benjamin Sterling Cannon, the Executive and Artistic Director of the Wilmington Ballet, and we are so delighted to be here amongst the art and the artists here at the Delaware Contemporary. We are very excited to share small vignettes of pieces that were created and inspired by elements and the art in this. Every day, our deliberate intention is to create vessels and fill them with creativity, confidence, and artistry. Creativity, confidence, and artistry. So our dancers tonight are doing two experimental pieces choreographed by myself and Miss Monet Mende, who is our ballet mistress. You'll see some of our scholarship students. Just like these pieces that you're seeing tonight were in process, we are also in process and have dissected the creative process in the pieces that you're going to see. They're all about becoming, bringing things from the nowhere to the now here. So without further ado, please welcome our scholarship students, Miss Samantha Guzman. Thank you, Samantha.
Process is the glazing of the work. So here I have a bowl that was made, and I'm going to apply the glaze. I'm only going to apply the glaze to specific areas that I'm interested in, because part of the Raku process, I like or enjoy the direct fire. So I am going to leave some of the bowl uncut. I'm applying the glaze to the bowl. And I'm leaving opportunities for the fire to actually hit the bowl, and the fire is going to smoke the bowl. So there's no need for me to put the glaze all over. The application of the glaze process will be 2 to 3 coats, allowing each coat to dry in between. So I'm going to allow this to dry. And behind me, I have an example of a Raku bowl. And then the back of it, the fire hit the pot directly and smoked the pot. So this is what I'm hoping for on the unglazed surface of the pot. And here's another example of a bowl. You get these really nice iridescent colors with the Raku. And again, the smoking of the vessel. Once the first layer is dry, it should no longer be shiny. So I'm going to apply another coat. You could apply different stains to give it different color. Following my third coat, this will be ready for the kiln.
Thanks, Tia. All right, now, so we're going to shoot it back to Kathrine Page.
All right, we're good.
Well, certainly, I love the Greek, the red and the black ink vases and the stories, the narratives that they contain. And then, but looking at Stephen Merritt's and his nod to the Peruvian water pots, they were developed in Cusco, Peru, and they usually rest at an angle, and then you lift them up by the handles and then carry them wherever. And so by taking that ancient idea and then harvesting a whole new idea with his own interpretation of it, I think is a wonderful nod to history. Also, Jonathan Hopp's, his work, it's like the traditional or colonial transferware that's so popular. There's actually a collector in Delaware who collects these transferwares. She has 1 million of them all over her house. It's a traditional technique, but Jonathan Hopp, he takes it to a whole different level by making different contours of the vessel, as well as using that transferware to transfer digitalized imagery onto the surface of the pot. So those are two examples that take us through a history of technique and use of vessels. Yes, I would say, interestingly, Wendell Castle's Rough Rider, he's from Kansas. He was born in Kansas. And there are a lot of equestrians in Kansas. I mean, it's farm country, so you've got a lot of horses and riders. And so that tells a story. If you didn't know anything about Wendell Castle, you would wonder, okay, Rough Rider. Well, he was probably exposed in his early life to the rodeo, to what it's like riding a horse on the farm, and maybe even getting kicked off one. So I think the whimsical nature of his title and the juxtaposition of textures, in addition to the narrative of his background, is what is so delightful about that piece.
Hi, everyone. I am the new curator, the Gretchen Hupfil Curator of Contemporary Art here at the Delaware Contemporary. And I had the distinct pleasure to work on the installation project, this past installation as well as the one previous. And just to talk a little bit more about that process, it's a very divide and conquer method here. We work as a team to deinstall all of the work, as well as put the pieces up, pack them, and do all of the labels and the patching and the painting. Especially during COVID, it has been a different experience for all of us here at the Delaware Contemporary. Specifically for some of our installation artist pieces, having artists come in on different days to work to install their pieces. And it takes a lot of scheduling and a lot of pre-effort that we have to put in to get everything done and taken care of. One of my favorite parts about doing the installation is coming in and seeing the work for the first time in the galleries. It's just such a pleasure when you're seeing them in images on the computer, and then you finally get to see everything and how it comes together in the gallery spaces. Yeah, so it's fantastic. Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for having me here, and I'm gonna take it over to Benjamin here with the Wilmington Ballet.
Thank you so much. Yay! Yay! Can we get another round of applause for Art, ladies and gentlemen? Art, come on, yes! Yes, absolutely. It is so good to enjoy some art in this hard time that we're living through. And this next piece actually is part of a larger piece called Light that I've choreographed that will premiere in the spring. And it's danced by Jack Dager and Miss Madison Richardson, our scholarship students. Once again, the Wilmington Ballet.
Human family. I note the obvious differences in the human family. Some of us are serious, some thrive on comedy, some declare their lives are lived as true profundity, and others claim they really live the real reality. The variety of our skin tone can confuse the muse delight.
We're gonna take out the So here we are unloading the kiln, and we are just about to introduce the vessels here to reduction. So we are placing the vessels directly from the inside of the kiln into the buckets that are filled with wood chips and combustible materials such as wood chips and paper. And we remove the vessel, put it into the can, and then we put the lid on top of it so that it creates a reduction atmosphere. So that's what you're seeing here. It's got to be really quick. So following this process, we were able to, the vessel stayed inside of the container for about 5 minutes or so. And then we remove the vessels from the container. And then we are going to place the vessels in water to cool down the vessels, to expedite the cooling of the vessels. Now, placing the vessels in the water is one of the fun parts of Raku. It's not always necessary, but it does gauge excitement. So that's the process that a lot of people get really excited about, because you, once you place the vessel inside of the water, it starts to swim around and has like this spaz effect, which can be very exciting. And you're gonna work really quickly, so we're working very quickly to introduce that. And this was the vessel. You can see this from earlier from being introduced to the water. And then this is the smoking of the pot. So this is where no glaze was. This is where the glaze application was. There are a lot of iridescent little colors here. You can start to see some of the blues and the purples in here as well. And then we have finally the reveal of the final two. So these two, we're looking at these. So pretty nice effects, pretty nice texture here. Beautiful color. It started to bubble up here a little bit. And here we had some crackle, which I don't know if you can see, but we started to get a little bit of the crack. And here we have some of I believe this was like a blue glaze over top of the copper glaze, which created a really nice effect. So this was our Raku firing.
All right, we've had such a fun night here at the museum, and we are so excited to tell you about a few more programs we have coming up in the next couple of months. Next weekend, we have our Tandem Clay workshop. This is a really fun program for couples for Valentine's Day. You and your friend come get close and throw some pottery together. Next up, we've got our Body of Art series. Joshua, tell us about Body of Art.
Yes, hope you'll join us February 20th, 10 to 12 for Body of the Art figure drawing with studio artist Jenna Lucente. You do not need to know how to draw or be experienced at all, but come out, learn from each other and have fun. Thanks.
And once you've made your art, you can learn how to turn your art into a business with our Art Fitness series. This month is a really exciting program for as an artist, learn to do your taxes. The Art Fitness series helps emerging artists elevate their practice and teaches you practical skills to help you take your art career to the next level. Member nights, Joshua, tell us about member nights.
Yes, February 18th, 6 to 8, we were having our first member night, actually, comic relief night featuring first date improv. So who doesn't need a little laughs after last year?
Oh, back to serious business here with our business workout. We have lots of really fun programs coming up at the museum. We can't wait to see you here at the Delaware Contemporary. And I know our director, Leslie Schaefer, wants to thank you for tuning in tonight. Leslie?
Thank you, Brittany and Josh, and thank you all for tuning in. We've had a really fantastic night. I want to thank the Wilmington Ballet. I want to thank Tia Santana for her work with the Raku. I want to thank Kathrine Page for putting together this amazing exhibition of vessels that we are so much enjoying. I want to thank Flux Consulting for all the behind the scenes hard work and making this all real fun and exciting for you. We love working with them, so thank you. Thanks to the DDOA, the Delaware Division of the Arts, and Midnight Beer. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed tonight. I think you got a little bit from Brittany and Josh on all the exciting upcoming programs, but you can just stop by. We're open every Thursday through Sunday from noon to 5. You can visit safely. We've got all kinds of, COVID restrictions in place, so come on down and see all of our fantastic exhibitions. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.